saw it. I saw it on my phone. Yeah.
What's up, Bob? How are you?
Pardon?
Good. How about you?
No, he just told Heather this afternoon he had somewhere to be this evening.
Well, our winter should go as fast as our summers, right?
January, February, March time period. Always seems so much longer.
So much longer.
How you been feeling?
Good.
I'm good.
Congratulations on the parking.
Family's growing.
You guys had a great trip back in July? No,
Yeah.
early August.
Yeah.
Or July.
The cruise?
The cruise, yeah.
You heard about it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Emily told us about it. That was great. No word on Jeff? Or Jeff's supposed to... Oh, he's absent? Mike, you were right. He's not here tonight. No. I'm kidding. I do the same thing when you're not here. So. Everybody does the same thing if I'm not here. No, you don't. I'm the only one who doesn't say anything.
All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Adequate notice of this meeting as provided by a posting on the bulletin board in Village Hall by mail to the Ridgewood News, the record and by submission to all persons entitled. The same is provided by law of a schedule, including the date and time of this meeting. Roll call.
Councilman Hache.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Seaton.
Here.
Councilman Voigt is absent. Councilwoman Walsh.
Here.
Mayor Knudsen.
Here. Please stand for the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join us in a moment of silence for our men and women serving our nation, our first responders, all the victims of Las Vegas, and their families. and friends, and also for our dear friend and planning board member, Isabella Altano, who passed away this weekend. Okay. Thank you. So we'll go on to public comments, not to exceed 3 minutes per person, total of 40 minutes. Good evening.
Hi, Jane Chinozuka, 825 Norgate Drive, Ridgewood.
Will you pull the microphone closer to you, Jane? Thank you. Pull the microphone closer to you. Thank you.
Like, okay? Okay. For items not on the agenda, I wanted to bring up briefly Shedler as it relates to Isabella. And I just wanted to go on record and ask a question. You know, someday that's going to become a park. It's going to be something. We don't know when. Something's going to happen there. Right now we refer to it as the Shedler Park. You know, and the Shedler family, I didn't know them, but they were paid money to sell that to us. So it wasn't a gift or anything like this. I would like you guys to think about very seriously, or tell me how to start a process to request that that park eventually be named something like an Isabella Altano Memorial Park or something. Because, I mean, nobody suffered as much as she did under this, and she suffered a lot of indignities from the town. She put hours and hours of, you know, sweat and tears into that project, and she's gone, you know. So I hope that you consider it, and if there's anything that I can do to help that, somebody please advise and let me know.
Thank you, Jane.
Good evening, Tony Damiano, 274 South Broad Street. Two things I'd like to discuss tonight, the valet parking proposal and the estate card. I was not informed about the valet parking. I heard about it last Friday, and I was asked to attend the meeting on Monday with Councilman Hache and Joan and Paul from the Chamber of Commerce. And to my surprise, it's being put into effect on Friday. Once again, I have to say, the business community was in the dark about this. We had all heard about the Van Nest proposal probably about a year ago, which I thought was a good proposal. But this came as quite a surprise. And I listened and made comments and took the letters and passed them through town, and to my surprise, got a little bit of a backlash with some of the restaurants surrounding that parking lot. Reason being is, as they said, their customers are now parking free after 6 o'clock, and now they're going to have to pay $5 for it. I really feel it's a Band-Aid on the wound, that the parking garage needs to get built where everyone will benefit by it, retailers, restaurants, professionals, and commuters, whereas this proposal is really just for the restaurants in the evening. It's their evening business. They do their businesses on Friday and Saturday night. Retailers will not benefit by this. I asked the question, how is the parking lot going to be emptied? I was told the process will begin at 5 o'clock. If it begins at 4 o'clock, just to put the math together, 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock on a Saturday is 25% of my selling on the best day of the week. So it's going to affect the retailers. Retail customers are very different than restaurant customers. Restaurant customers spend an average of 90 minutes per restaurant. So they will for dinner rather, they will spend $5. 15 minutes is the average time spent in a retail store. The customer comes in, they know what they want, they buy it, etc. The browsing and the whole idea is, oh yes, they'll see the store and I'll come back. Coming back does not pay the rent. It has to be immediate. So although it will help the restaurants, it's not going to help the retailers. Questions did come up also as how long are the patrons going to have to wait until a car is retrieved and come back? We're going into inclement weather, rain, snow, cold. So that's a question. The parking garage. I really hope this goes into place before all of these residential complexes come about, because this is going to be a very hard wave to overcome. The CBD is going to be in turmoil if most of these start simultaneously, which is a big concern. I always felt this was too heavy for our village, and conceivably, businesses could close because of this. The noise, the demolition, the reconstruction, this can conceivably go on for 2 years. I'm not faulting council. I know that you wanted to put a stop to it, so that's not my issue.
All right.
My
Tony,
issue is
Tony, I'm
that...
sorry. Tony, I'm sorry.
Yes.
The beeper went off. The time is up. The timer went off.
All right, the only thing I want to say is there's many people parking in Ken Smith and Brogan, I think about 100 people. Where do they go when the construction starts if a garage is not in effect? I would like to comment just 2 minutes more on, or not even, on the estate card.
I'm sorry, there are other people that might be in line, and we have, we have...
Well,
rules.
this benefits the downtown.
Okay, well,
so-
I'm sorry, Tony, we have rules, and there's 3 minutes.
Well, there's hardly anybody here tonight, but if
It
you don't want to
doesn't
hear
matter.
my
You know what, Tony?
opinion,
Tony,
that's
there's
fine.
another public comment period at the end of the meeting.
Good evening, Boyd Loving, 342 South Irving Street. I noted on the village website today that there is now some information posted regarding the valet parking program, including a form that the businesses need to fill out if they want to opt in and provide reimbursement to their clients, which led me to think, particularly after I lived through the quarter incident, that I'd like tonight, I don't see Mr. Rooney in the room, but the manager's here, if at some point during the meeting this evening the audit process for this can be explained. In particular, I'm interested to know, we were told that approximately 250 cars have to be parked every evening in order for the taxpayers to break even. Who is going to be auditing to ensure that the number of cars that the vendor has said are parked are actually the number of cars that are parked? I'm also concerned about $5 bills that are floating out there. Again, the taxpayers are going to be out $36,000. I'm assuming that a $5 bill is going to be needed handed to the parking attendant. Who is keeping track of that money to ensure that that money winds up in the safe in the village someplace, or somehow or another is turned over to the village, whether cash is being turned over to the village, a check is being turned over to the village. Very concerned about the fact that cash is floating around out there, and what is the audit process to ensure that that money gets back to the taxpayers. And my lovely wife pointed out a third thing, and that is, if you're visiting 3 businesses in the evening, can you get validated by all 3 businesses? Who is keeping track of the number of validations that are being given out to an individual? That is, you could go to a restaurant, get your parking validated, then go to Ben & Jerry's for ice cream and maybe get your parking validated, and then maybe go to a retail store that's open late and get your parking validated. So now you've been given, in effect, $15 when parking is only $5. Who is going to be auditing to ensure that people aren't collecting validations above and beyond the one that they're entitled to? So if the manager can kind of clarify some of those points tonight in the absence of Mr. Rooney, again, my concern is taxpayers are out $36,000 when this is all over. How are we getting our money back, and what is the audit process to ensure that it's all coming in and not winding up in somebody's pocket? Thank you.
Thank you, Boyd. Okay, anyone else? Okay, with that, we're going to close public comment, and did you want to respond to anything, Councilman Hache, at this point? Is there anything you'd like to respond to? Would you like me to respond?
Yeah, sure. I mean, when we talk about the validating of the tickets, the restaurant's not going to give the patron a $5 bill and say, go pay for your parking. That's not the way it works. So there's one ticket, and at the valet station, there's one ticket to offset. So it's not going to be, you don't go and collect kind of validations to all the restaurants in town. It's just one validation per ticket. But that's done electronically. It's not like you're going to get a coupon or a receipt, to do that.
So let me just a little bit more on information about the valet system. First, this is a 3-month pilot program. And in fact, there's a lot of information regarding the existing valet operations that are currently working under an ordinance that was passed by a previous council. And that information has allowed us to better understand how a valet system run by the village might actually work. Is it going to be 100%? Well, I hope so, but there's no guarantee. Now, regarding the shops that won't benefit the retail shops, well, I had actually just said to Councilman Hache the other day, the coup in all of this would be if the retail shops remained open on Friday and Saturday nights until 9 o'clock. Because when we talk about wanting a vibrant, walkable, interesting, pedestrian-friendly central business district, well, there were a lot of people that like to go out to eat and then go shopping. And so if the valet works, and we do hope that there's some benefits, and we'll get the benefits, we'll learn the burden, and then we'll do an analysis at the end of the 3 months. But hopefully what we will do is have everyone lean in and participate. And if that happens, I think that our downtown, which I already believe is to be thriving and vibrant, will actually even do better. So, and I think Councilman Hache makes the great point about the $5. I understood it to be on an app or something, that there weren't going to be $5 bills flying, and certainly the question about how many validations you could get. Well, you only have one ticket, so it would seem obvious to me anyway, presumably only one validation. Was there anything else on that? So, like I said, it's a 3-month pilot. We're willing to give it a shot and see how it works. And it appears that if we, just for instance, in the whole area where the valet parking will exist, that will more than double the parking capacity of that lot. And just for the record, when we talk about the garage, it was always a piece of the garage puzzle that the meters would have to go until 9 o'clock. So the meter hours would be extended in order to fund the garage. So that argument that now you're paying for parking where previously you weren't, well, in fact, when and if a garage is built, that will come to fruition as well. So, on a final note, the Isabella Altano, I don't know where Jane went, they are. So just for the record, everyone knows that our dear friend and planning board colleague, historic preservation colleague, lost her battle with cancer this past weekend. And we will look at how to appropriately and best honor her work for the, on behalf of the Shedler property, and the work on behalf of the Ridgewood village community, on the planning board, and on the Historic Preservation Commission. She will be very much missed, not just as a colleague, but as a dear friend. So, moving on.
Our first item is a presentation by Ridgewood American Legion Post 53 by Bob Paley, and it's the Spirit of America's Story, The Wall.
Yeah, thank you. Bob Paoli, 368 North Pleasant Avenue in Ridgewood. The American Legion wants to present an event starting next year, the week before Veterans Day, which falls on a Sunday, November the 11th, 2018. The event, it's a traveling exhibit. Patricia Sexton lost her husband in Vietnam, and her partner, Ronald Smith, is a veteran from the Persian Gulf War. They're in Sandusky, Ohio, and they came up with this idea to have a traveling exhibit, which would depict the involvement of all American men and women, military men and women, who were engaged in all the wars since the Revolutionary War. And the exhibit, they've never been outside the state of Ohio because they're in Sandusky. However, now they've formulated this, they finalized this exhibit, and they want to travel nationwide with it. I think it's a great opportunity for the village of Ridgewood to have this traveling exhibit here in Ridgewood. It would be the first time that it would be shown in the state of New Jersey. The exhibit it's an exhibit of panels. The panels are 8 feet high and 10 feet wide. And each panel would depict our engagement in all these wars from the Revolutionary War. I think it's a great opportunity if Ridgewood could have this exhibit here in Ridgewood. There would be a lot of promotion on this. We could get all the veterans organizations throughout the county. Certainly the Board of Education, churches, community groups. It would be open to the public. I had 2 venues to have this shown. One was the Ridgewood Library in their auditorium, because they have high ceilings and the lighting is very good. However, I'm told that this time next year they're going to be undergoing extensive renovations, so they can't help us. And the other venue, of course, was the youth center, and which was perfect, I thought, because of the high ceilings, the lighting, etc., etc. We sent photographs to these people in Sandusky, and they came back to us and said that it wouldn't work. Apparently, the ceiling has too many apertures, too many structures between piping of one kind or another, that it wouldn't do. So rather than give up entirely on this idea, I'm open to suggestions. Perhaps you people know of some other places in town that could do this for us. It would have to be a very large place. Certainly parking would be a consideration. Again, high ceilings, very good lighting, and certainly we'd have to have it indoors. So I'm thinking, I'm in touch with them. They're willing to come to Ridgewood. I've locked in the dates of Sunday. I'm sorry, Monday. Is it Monday? Yes. November the 5th, which is a Monday. They would come and set up and take down on veterans on the following, you know what, I'm confused. They would come on either Sunday or Monday, either November 4th or November 5th, and set up, and take down the following Monday on November the 12th. So for that whole week, this exhibit would be shown here somewhere in Ridgewood, where all the people could come and see it. And then it would culminate on Veterans Day, which falls on a Sunday next year, November the 11th. So that's my proposal. I'm looking for a place to have this. Perhaps you people know somebody in town who has an adequate place where we could show this. I've got some information here that I'll leave on this table here, just so that I don't take up your time. Yes.
So,
I'm sorry. I heard that, I guess.
the Rotary, the Rotary.
Yeah, there's a considerable cost to do this, of course, but between the private donations, like my Legionnaire friend Chris Stout said, the Rotary is willing to put up a good part of the funds. The American Legion and other veterans groups, private donations as well.
So why don't we do this? Because this is really exciting and an opportunity we would not want to miss. So why don't we just ask 2 council members? Can we maybe assign 2 council members to assist and pursue every opportunity, and then they would be able to make phone calls and interact, and just as Councilwoman Walsh and I are sitting here, I think between the two of us, we just came up with 4 different places that we thought were really feasible.
Options.
And good options. So we're just sitting here very briefly going like, oh, well, it could be here, could be there. So why don't we do this? Is there anyone in particular that would like to participate and help? You want, and so Councilman Walsh, do you want to do?
Yeah, sure.
All right, maybe Councilman.
I mean, as you know, one of the aims of the Legion is, of course, to engage the children and the youth. David Fishbein is on board with this, the public education in Ridgewood.
Right.
You know, the promotion will go out to all the classes and the teachers and the parents at home. So I think this would be a wonderful coup for the village of Ridgewood.
Oh, yeah, I think
Since
it would
we'd be the first
fabulous.
ones in the state of New Jersey.
Fabulous. So why don't we, I think that the Deputy Mayor and Councilwoman Walsh are stepping up to assist, and I'm sure between all of us, we'll put on our thinking caps and figure out where this would be best suited and help you in any way that we can. And so I think it's a great opportunity and that we should definitely be doing this. And how quickly do we have to make a commit to like having our location set? When do we have to commit, like have a location set by? Because this is a year from now, right?
Well, they've locked in those dates for us.
Okay,
So as soon as,
okay, all right.
you know, I have to send them an event application, and initial fees would be
All right, so
involved.
that's this piece here.
As soon as they receive that, why, we can go ahead with this.
Okay. All right, so we're on board. We're going to
Great.
help, and Commander
Great.
Paoli,
Any other
we
questions?
appreciate. I think, did you want to have anything to say, or? Do you have anything to say about anything?
Uh-oh.
I've been like, kind of like,
All right.
don't be silly.
Chris Stout, 251 Burnside Place in Ridgewood.
Yeah, I'm not going to be in here.
Hang on 1 second, Chris. That's okay.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Bob.
Chris, could you lift the microphone, please? Thank you.
All right, well,
Chris
thank you,
Stout, 251
Commander
Burnside Place in
Paoli, and now
Ridgewood.
we're up to Chris Stout.
Council may recall that I came before you a few months ago to ask your permission and approval to make a change in town property, namely the War Memorial at Van Nest Square, Van Nest Park. I wanted to do that because we discovered a World War I casualty, this on the centennial of America's entry into World War I. We discovered a World War I casualty, decorated, killed in action, who claimed Ridgewood, New Jersey as his home of record. And you approved that, and that addition was made to the monument, the World War I portion of the monument, and dedicated, if you like, on Memorial Day this year. Well, your approval and your good faith is going to bear fruit, because at about the same time, the Pritzker Military Museum and Library in Chicago launched a nationwide matching grant competition for creation, rehab, or renovation of World War I monuments, a program called 100 Cities, 100 Monuments. And I said, we've got the nicest war memorial you could want. How am I going to get anything out of this? And I said, well, we updated. We didn't rehab, but we updated a century later, coincidentally, but luckily coincidentally, our memorial. So I put in a submission. I submitted an application, and we won. We were cited just this past week as one of the first 50 municipal or monuments, World War I monuments, to have successfully won part of their match. It's a little premature in my mind. I don't know exactly what that means. What it does mean is that our monument will now be designated nationwide on their website everywhere as a World War I centennial monument. I think it's pretty cool. The good thing about it is that they match the funding, and with a little bit of luck, I'll be able to come back here sometime in the near future and present you with a check to cover all of the expenses that you incurred, and the taxpayers of Ridgewood will be $995 richer. Just wanted to let you know that.
So, thank you. It is very exciting news,
Yes,
and we
it's
really
fun.
appreciate all of your work. Bob, Stan, we appreciate your service to our country and to our community. So thank you very much, and we'll get on this too right away.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Every little bit helps.
Every little bit helps. Okay.
Okay, our first discussion item is Ridgewood Water, and the first is award of contract for laboratory analysis services. This is an annual contract. The Department of Water Supply went out for bid. 2 bid specifications were picked up, and 2 bids were received. The lowest qualified bidder was Aqua Protect Labs at $128,460 for 2018 and the same amount for 2019. Although the pricing for 2016 and 17 was $37,520 for 2016 and $47,520 for 2017, which is approximately, gosh, it's over, it's 170,000 more in the next 2 years. The reason for that, though, is that there's an addition of the next round of unregulated contaminant samples we have to take, and the increased sampling frequency that is required by both NJDEP and US EPA. So again, the contract is for Aqua Protect Labs out of Fairfield, New Jersey, in the amount of $128,460 for the 2 years. So this is for the award for the first year.
Okay. Any questions, comments? It's a pretty extensive list of contaminants now on that too that they test for.
Correct.
Which is a good thing, but it's
Yes.
money. Okay, great.
The next is the servicing and repair of electric source. Again, it's an annual contract that's awarded. We accepted bid proposals. 2 bid specifications were picked up, 2 bids being received. The lowest bid was from Venor Electric Incorporated out of Hackensack for $105 an hour for 2018 and 2019. Pricing for the years 2016 and 2017 were actually more. It was $109.56 an hour, so we're saving about almost $5 an hour, almost $4.50. So that's good.
Questions, comments? Moving on.
The next one is emergency generator installations. Arcadis Inc. is the engineering consultant for the emergency generator installations, and Ridgewood Water went out to bid with, so both Arcadis and Ridgewood Water went out to bid with a total of 6 bids received. The recommendation of Arcadis, and Rich Calby, our Director of Water, has confirmed, is to award the contract to Envirocon from Hackettstown, New Jersey, in the amount of $1,795,617. They're the lowest responsible bidder. The price is actually more than $68,000 less than the second lowest bidder. This is for the installation of emergency generators at critical water facilities, which is essential to maintain the production, treatment, and distribution of safe drinking water to the public. And so this will also help us comply with the EPA administrative order. And so all these generators must be connected and ready to go by no later than July 15th, 2018. So we're kind of under the gun, and we need to move forward. And it actually services 11 facilities within the water system.
Right, got it. Okay. Any questions, comments?
Okay, the next one is servicing and repair of potable water pumping facilities. Again, this is an annual bid. Total of 8 bid specifications were picked up, 5 bids being received. The lowest responsible bidder is AC Schultz for $185,250 for both years. Actually, the 2016-17 contract was for $191,300 for both years. So again, we're saving money, and interestingly enough, the low bidder that time was also AC Schultz. This service is necessary to complete repairs and replacements in the water system supply, treatment, and distribution equipment contained within the well houses, transfer stations, treatment buildings, and booster stations. And AC Schultz is out of Woodbury Heights, New Jersey.
Questions, comments?
The next one is award of contract for furnishing and delivering sodium hypochlorite solution. Again, an annual award of contract. There were 4 bids picked up, 2 bids being received. Miracle Chemical Company is the lowest responsible bidder at $1.545 per gallon for 2018 and 19. And the unit price for 16 and 17 actually was $3.62 per gallon. The reduced pricing is a result of Ridgewood Water now accepting bulk delivery and distributing the solution with our own forces to the system treatment facilities. So again, it's Miracle Chemical Company out of Farmingdale, New Jersey. And this allows us to meet the regulatory requirements and ensure safe drinking water for the public.
Anything? Moving on.
Okay, the next item is parking, Hudson Street redevelopment area. We have a letter from the Secretary to the Planning Board indicating that the Planning Board has voted unanimously in support of designated Hudson Street, Block 3809, Lot 12 and 13, as an area in need of redevelopment. And they ask that this be accepted as a formal referral back to the governing body from the Planning Board. And there's a copy of the determination of area of need of redevelopment as submitted by Bridget Bogart, the village planner. I am sure Mayor Knutson, being on the planning board, has additional information on this.
Yes. So, as requested by this village council, Bridget Bogart did prepare her report for the downtown redevelopment area for the village of Ridgewood, Block 3809, Lot 12 and 13. And if you'll go through the report, you'll see that there are certain criteria that a lot must meet in order to be designated as an area in need of redevelopment. And in this instance, this lot meets more than one of the criteria. It need only meet one, but it actually meets 2, which is, and if you look on page 4, the land is owned by the municipality. And it is with buildings or improvements which, by reason of dilapidation, obsolescence, overcrowding, faulty arrangement of design, lack of ventilation, light, or sanitary facilities. Now we go through all of this thing, but it's the detrimental to the safety, health, morals, and welfare of the community, which is D, and then a lack of proper utilization, which is really the primary criteria that it meets, and it's so underutilized. And on, let's just get to the chart. If you'll turn to page 8, you'll see that there's a chart, the improvement ratios for the block by block and lot number, and you'll see that, for instance, lot 4 has a 77.8% improvement ratio. We have 85.7% on lot 10 and 38% on lot 14, but our 2 lots, 12 and 13, are 4.5% and 0.2%. And so that underutilization allows it to meet the criteria as an area in need of redevelopment. Any questions so far? So, and needless to say, the question, one of the questions that came up as to how that would be determined if it was a taxable property, but in this instance, while it's not taxable, it is a revenue source for the village, and so that's how that would be determined. So what happens is that the planning board asked a number of questions. The Bridget Bogart was very responsive to those questions. The report is fairly straightforward, and the board unanimously supported this designation. So now what happens is if we determine at this point that's the direction we would like to go, we would prepare a resolution, and we could, by resolution, designate that as an area in need of redevelopment. If we wanted to do a plan for that lot, then we would have to do a plan by ordinance, but in this instance, we would not necessarily be looking at a plan. We would just be doing the designation by resolution. Is that? Okay?
Yeah, I think maybe what I should do is just for the council outline the procedure and do that for I don't know whether you're looking to do it at the next public meeting, which is next week?
Yes.
Oh, you are, okay, well, I've got some work to do. So I'll outline that for everybody, just so you can understand the procedure and the process and what your alternatives are.
I have a question. And maybe we can get the minutes from the planning board.
Well, I think you ought to get when we do deal with it, I think it's probably wise to get Bridget here to be able to answer any questions with regard to it as well.
Yeah, because, just from this chart here, first of all, if this is going to be disseminated to the public, and we had an issue recently where things were listed by block and lot, and I was confused. I think that you should have the street addresses with all of these block and lots, so that when people look at this, they know exactly what is being described here in this chart. The other thing is, it wouldn't be odd to have a 0.4 or a 0.2 and a 4.5, because the others are improved lots and ours
Right.
is just vacant. So are you saying that she or somebody is going to give us an estimate of what it's going to be improved, or are we just going to be looking at it for straight redevelopment?
I mean, I wasn't there, but I think that criteria, just from when I read the report when we received it, I think that criteria that's on that chart helps support her opinion, the planner's opinion of underutilization in terms of the use of the property and its ability to be improved. So I think that's the support that's being used to help designate it. I think that's the way she wanted it interpreted. But I think we ought to just let her talk about it. That's my impression of after reading the report.
Yeah, because what if her opinion is different than what's been discussed on the lot, I guess, in terms of highest and best use?
Yeah, I don't think she's an appraiser, so she doesn't do
Yeah,
highest and
she's
best
not
use.
doing
She
But
does
if
planning.
but if she's going to make recommendations,
Yeah.
is her recommendation going to be for a garage, or is her recommendation going to be for something else?
I don't
that's
know that,
only-
yeah, I don't know that she's making a recommendation, and I don't think the report speaks to recommendation for a garage. I think it deals with the opinion or the classification as to whether or not this is an area in need of redevelopment. I think that's going to be up to the council.
So, and she's going to be coming to speak with us, or what is the?
I guess we could invite her here next week to speak to this, which is fine. And I just actually did mean to call your attention to page 11, which is that the underutilization is inconsistent with the 2016 master plan reexamination report. And, but we can invite Bridget here for
Yeah, that would
Wednesday's
be helpful.
meeting. Hopefully
Yeah.
she's available, if not, maybe an
I think you
associate.
need it.
Yeah, okay.
So then, would we be voting on this next week, or are we going to hold off on that?
Well, I think we have to do it by resolution, and so I think that would be up to this council if you want to have a resolution prepared, and, I mean, that would be a question. If you want to have a resolution prepared and then have Bridget come and speak to that resolution, that's one option. And again, my understanding is that the resolution is required to designate an area in need of redevelopment. If you were to do a plan which is consistent with what you're asking as to what the planning board or this village council, which we could do the plan,
What the use of the,
if you wanted specifically to
zone it out. for
zone it
particular
out for
use.
different uses, then we could do a plan, and that would be by ordinance. But if we're just looking strictly to designate it as an area in need of redevelopment, we need only do by resolution. So if we, would you prepare the resolution?
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly prepare the resolution. You can, vote on it, you could table it, depending upon how you looked at it, it would be up to the council what to do.
So do we
I think
want,
it's a little too soon, though, because we need to speak with Bridget, and we need to get the information from the planning board.
I mean,
I
the
think
planning
next
board.
week would certainly
well,
be too
See, the
soon.
planning board gives you the information by making that recommendation. I
Right.
certainly think that having Bridget here to answer questions can help you decide what you want to do next and how you want to approach it. And I would think, too, that Bridget would be available by phone by anybody anyway. But
Right.
certainly, you've got the chance to gather more information. You can decide what you want to do, and, if you're comfortable with it, vote on it. If you're not comfortable, you need more information, then you decide what to do with it, so.
so if everyone is agreeable, I would say, why don't we prepare the resolution, and anybody can read what this is all the planning board had, so whatever the planning board had is in this copy of the report, which actually is no longer draft, but, so you have the report. You certainly can reach out to Bridget, and we can try to get her here next week and see how we want to proceed. So if everyone is open to having our village attorney prepare the resolution, and then we can proceed from there.
Yeah, I mean, I would just, I feel like next week's too quick. I think the public needs to be able to get a hold of this. Can this be put up on our website, Heather? So that they can look at this as well, and then I would appreciate the comments that the planning board made, so if we could maybe get the minutes from the planning board.
I doubt we will have the minutes. I mean, they don't get
they tape it?
done that, but we could get audio.
Yeah, I would, yeah, I'd like to
And we
hear
could
the
give you
audio.
audio discs, all of you.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, thank you.
Okay.
No other questions or any comments? Okay.
So assuming that we have a resolution, we either vote on it next week or we vote on it in November, then the next question becomes, once this is designated an area in need of redevelopment, do we negotiate with Pike, who has come in here and done some work, or do we do what the council in 2007 did and go out and solicit several developers to come in here and present probably at special public meetings, and then you pick whichever one has the best presentation? I mean, that's how because the council in 2007 designated the North Walnut Street parking lot an area in need of redevelopment. It took a little bit longer because there was condemnation involved of the town garage property and everything else. So since we're not contemplating taking any property and we own it, we could do this relatively quickly. So then it becomes, the next question becomes, how quickly would we like to get a garage built, and what kind of options would we be looking at? And I put that question to my colleagues to just gauge your thoughts on what the next steps would be.
Go ahead. So my thought is, I'm kind of like still open to which process to follow, but I think the most important thing is to put the process tools in the toolbox and then proceed from there. I think that's just in my mind a better approach, but you're welcome to put together, a packet for the council's consideration and at the next meeting, and present however you would like to approach it.
Well, no, that's really, I mean, that's just a question I'm throwing out there. There's really, it's pretty simple stuff. Like once it's designated an area in need of redevelopment, we could either negotiate with Pike, who is in here, or we could have them come in and other developers, which is what they did in 2000, or that's what they did in 2007. Right, so they had 5 developers come in, and they had their, we didn't have to pay for a design, we didn't have to pay for a concept or anything. It'd be the same thing as Pike, except there'd be like 5 of them, and they'd have renderings, they'd have a size, and they'd follow our criteria of 3 stories, fits on the lot, and they could make it look however they want to look. That council back then did it at special public meetings, so they didn't wait to bring these in at a regular meeting. They held special meetings, and they came in, and the sort of process could move along. So it's like you want to keep this thing moving, and that's how I do it. So I don't have a package or information to put together. We have one route if we do this, and we have another route.
Right.
And that's, yeah, I mean, I actually like the approach because, one of the things that I appreciate from our conversations with Pike, for example, was there's a lot of things that came out of those conversations that really were enlightening in terms of, the process of the way things are done. And I think now being better armed with the knowledge of knowing that, for example, whoever's going to build this thing is going to get free renderings or free plans from the precaster, from where they're buying the precast material from, then yeah, I mean, then we open up the options of talking to everyone, engaging in conversations. It's not going to cost us anything. I mean, for all we've learned from Pike, we spent 0 money in doing it.
Right.
And if we can get the benefit of having, and Pike is just one company, so we're getting now the benefit of being able to have this dialogue with as many companies as I would imagine are out there that would be interested in this project, I think all the better, and
So, and maybe that makes sense because that allows us then to have a more robust negotiation process.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, maybe if you just went to one, if you just went to Pike, and, I mean, their design was fabulous, and of course, I look at it and think, well, okay, so this is a box, and everyone's going to build this exactly, almost the exact same box, although I will say that back in 2015 and 2016, when the many times I said, can you just fit it on the lot without that encroachment, I was told over and over that that particular group could not do it. And so interesting that they figured out how to do it. So we might have other folks that say, no, it can't be done. But again, we look at it and would think that this is a box, and so somebody's going to put all the architectural detail and pretty it up and add the Federici and do whatever else needs to be done. Hopefully it's still safe. But yeah, I mean, it will probably put us in a better position to negotiate aggressively, whatever aggressively, because, you know, we're talking about a lot of money, and every dollar we save is less we have to gain back through the utility. Thought?
So, and Matt, you're going to have to jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're seeking redevelopment zone information, and I'm going to always go back to highest and best use, they may come up with an answer that's different than a garage. They may come up with a suggestion that's different than a garage in terms of what's going to be. And, you know, there would probably have to be some other further analysis, maybe an appraisal, to determine what is, in a redevelopment zone, the highest and best use.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit confused because I don't know where you're getting the idea that I have to come up with the highest and best use, because it's village-owned property.
No, I know that, but...
And I think it's up to the council to decide how to use it. Now, if you want to use it for the highest and best use, there probably might be a better way to, you know, sell it or to utilize it for some other type of use other than a parking garage. And I don't know if that's on anybody's radar with regard to this property. So one of the advantages of owning the property, and I'm just, you know, no one's brought this up before, I'm just talking off the top of my head.
Yep.
One of the advantages of owning the property is that you get to decide what to do with it. So whether the parking garage is the highest and best use may be to the council of no consequence. May not be an important aspect of it, and it is not a required criteria for determining or for developing property through the redevelopment process.
So then that goes back to why I think we need to talk to Brooke, because why would she have done the chart then?
I think, again, I thought, and I tried to explain it, but it's better off getting the answer from her.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
So you're not wrong.
Okay, thanks.
So just, and I'll
You're right,
I'll
as
respond to
usual,
that.
Bert.
I can respond. The purpose of the chart was to show the level of underutilization.
Yeah, I think
I think
it's best to
a very cut and dry
It's best to
response.
get Bridget to
right, which is
give her
fine.
opinion and let her know why, because I don't want to speak for her.
All right.
Thank you.
Did that answer your question?
We'll get there.
Okay, anything else? Moving on.
Okay, the annual audit has been distributed to you this evening. I just want to remind you that at a minimum, you must read the general comments and recommendations before next week, because we do adopt a resolution indicating that you've read at a minimum that, and in addition, you sign indicating that that's what you've read at a minimum, and it's notarized. So we do have Bud Jones here from Nissa Voce, and also Steve Sanzeri, our village treasurer, to give the summary of the audit and the corrective action plan to address the recommendations from the audit. So you can come up here to the table. That'd be fine.
It's not even 10 pages.
Those green lights on?
Yeah, just check at the bottom. You have to push the button to make the green lights go on. Great.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Bud Jones. I'm with Nissa Voce. We're your auditors. We presented a draft of the report to your administration. They reviewed the draft. We made some changes as a result of that. We met and had an exit conference with the village manager, the chief financial officer, and the treasurer, discussed the findings in the audit report, and finalized it. The village is in good financial shape as of December 31st, 2016. Fund balance for the current fund is basically in the same position as it was at the end of 2014, slight decrease from 2015. The water utility fund balance is pretty much in the exact same position, about a $30,000 difference, nothing material there. The parking utility fund balance was drawn down slightly as a result of returning some funds back to the current fund as was planned in the 2016 budget. The borrowing capacity of the village, you're only utilizing about 21% of your borrowing margin. So there's a significant amount of debt that you could incur if you needed to. I'd just like to make sure people are aware of that. You have a capacity of about 221 million. You're utilizing less than 47 million. So there's about 175 million that is available should the village need it. Also, the tax collection percentage of the village is excellent. You're above 99%. There's a very slight decrease from 2015, but still it's excellent. So I just wanted to give a high-level overview of the finances. The recommendations and suggestions in the report have decreased from when we started here. There's been a great effort to look at those recommendations and implement a correction where needed, and I have to admit that some of the corrections or some of the changes that were made were pretty innovative to eliminate the recommendations too. And if there are any questions, I'll be glad to try and answer them at this point.
Okay, questions? So I was looking at the comments and the recommendations, and I can't remember how many pages the original comments and recommendations were. This is a pretty light read here compared to what we've had in the past. So we must be doing a good job.
Your professionals are doing an excellent job.
We're glad.
We interact with them throughout the year as questions arise. We try to be of some assistance and provide some input to them.
Okay. Anyone? So if anyone has questions about the comments and recommendations, send them to you, Heather, and you can reach out.
Yes, that would be fine. And so attached to the backup for this item is actually the various corrective action plan for the recommendations and how we're going to correct the findings that were established within the audit. And it does indicate our explanation, our response as to how to correct those, so they hopefully don't show up next year.
Anything else? Okay.
Okay, thank you so much for coming this evening.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Steve.
All right, our next item is award of contract for the odor control system for the water pollution control facility. The village received a violation from New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection regarding the plant's inoperable odor control system. The Continental Carbon Group offered to examine the current system and determine what effort is needed to restore and rehabilitate it to make it operational. The result is most of the current equipment can be reused and does not need to be replaced. And so they've given a quote for that effort, which is $7,500. Suburban Consulting provided an overall quote to address the notice of violations, and their quote is $16,000. So by accepting both proposals, we'll have a roadmap how to move forward to make the odor control system operational once again. Once this phase is complete, there will be construction phase to implement the various recommendations. So Mr. Redesauser is recommending that we hire Continental Carbon Group first for $7,500 to provide a detailed assessment of the current odor control system. And once we have that, work with Suburban to do the NJDEP permitting for the boiler and the modifications to the odor control system to achieve compliance. And so as long as this is acceptable to the council, we'll do those resolutions to award those contracts. Okay. The next one is the 2017 road resurfacing and repair for various village streets. It's an additional partial award. As you may recall, we awarded $1 million worth of paving to J.A. Alexander of Bloomfield, New Jersey for paving. A second partial award is also going to be considered next week, which is for planting trees in the amount of $50,000. At this time, Mr. Redishauser is recommending a third partial award of $700,000 to the contractor for continuing the paving. This would bring the total amount of work awarded to the contractor to $1,750,000. This, the total bid was $41,710 more than that. So it's not the complete amount, but he would like to get additional paving done, so it would be an additional part of the award.
Okay. Questions, anyone?
Okay, the next one is professional services contract for grant writing services. Mayor Knutson, Councilwoman Walsh, Bob Rooney, Chris Redishauser, and I met with two grant writing firms. One was Millennium Strategies out of Morristown, and the other is Bruno Associates out of Clifton. Both are well-respected grant writing firms in New Jersey. We explained to both firms that we do our own NJDOT grants, our own community development block grants. We do Bergen County Historic Preservation and open space grants, and we also do police department grants for campaigns such as Click It or Ticket or Drive Sober or Get Pulled Over. And because we do those grants normally, and we are successful with it, we told these grant writing firms we would continue to do those grant writing, and we don't need them for those projects. What we really said is what we're looking for is a grant writing firm who can obtain other grants for which we may qualify, where we don't have the personnel or expertise to fill out the applications or find grants that we currently don't know exist. The cost to hire Millennium Strategies is $36,000 for a 12-month contract. There is an option for renewal of another 12 months. There's an opt-out clause with a 14-day notice required from either side. They assured us that the village would receive grant money which will exceed the annual cost to hire them, which is the $36,000. They have 12 grant writers on staff, and every Monday we get 3 to 4 grant opportunities to look at and decide whether or not we want them to apply for them. That will depend on many things, including whether matching funds are required. If they are, whether or not the village wants to put matching funds towards it, if we feel that we have enough data to give them to be able to fulfill the grant. They'll also look at stall projects, so things that perhaps we haven't moved forward with because we need additional funding and we haven't put it into the capital budget, possibly we could get a grant. And then they also indicated that during the 12-month contract, they would submit 15 to 25 grant applications for the village. Bruno Associates, their cost for the 12-month contract is $32,000 for the 12 months. There's an option for renewal again after 12 months. There's an opt-out clause after 6 months, and then it's a 30-day opt-out. They have former municipal administrators who are their grant writers. They have various relationships within the county and also with some funding sources which may assist the village in obtaining grant funding. They indicated that there are many grants available for firefighters and firefighting equipment. They indicated, and also beautification of the central business district. They indicated they may submit multiple grant applications for the same project and possibly get grant funding from multiple sources. They said that during the 12-month contract, they would submit 12 to 15 grant applications. So in comparing the two, I think the recommendation of the group overall was that Millennium Strategies is probably the one we'd like to go with. They have a greater number of grant writers on staff. They will submit a greater number of grant applications on behalf of the village, as well as a shorter opt-out notice period if we decide not to continue with them. It's also believed that there's a $4,000 difference between the two on the 12-month contract, and it's believed that the greater number of applications being submitted by Millennium Strategies would probably make up that $4,000 difference, and probably more than that. So the recommendation is to hire Millennium Strategies.
Okay, any questions you want to add to that?
Yeah,
at all?
I'll just add a comment. You know, we met with both firms. They're both extremely professional. subject matter experts in their field, obviously, and I think we would have done well with either of the firms. I think that for a village our size and the projects we'd love to do, I think Millennium was probably a better fit. But I think that this has been a long time coming. Last time I was on the council, we were hoping to get a grant writer in, and I think that this will free up a lot of personnel, time, money, and energy, and I think this will really be a wonderful addition to the village.
And I agree, and I think it's really the opportunity to achieve grant money or secure grant money and not have so many missed opportunities, which we know we have many missed opportunities, and just their, you know, they were very diverse in that area. So I think it's Millennium was definitely, you know, the preference, but both were absolutely more than qualified.
I had one question. Would there be some way that you could submit like requests to them, like say you have a project in mind, and can you go out and get grants to fund this? Because I was just thinking of the tree inventory that we tried to do. We missed a grant on that, and we could say, can you find us some tree money? So, okay, that's good.
Yes, if we have a particular project, we can go to them and say, we'd like to know if there are any grants out there to help us move forward with this project. And then they could research that. As I said, they have 12 grant writers and researchers on staff, and they would come back to us saying, yes, this is what we have in that area. So.
Well, it's good to know, because we're also going to be eligible for CSIP grants starting in January of 2018. We just missed the cutoff because our Shade Tree Commission was officially commissioned by the state in January of this year. So we weren't available for CSIP grants this year, but that kicks in next year because we're certified by the state now. And I believe Rutherford got one through CSIP 2 years ago for like $140,000 for, I think, tree planting and maintenance. So, I mean, there's a lot of work that needs to be done out there, and, you know, we could have people looking into this to really get some funds for it, so that'll be great.
That's great.
And I actually do agree. This has been discussed for years and years and years, and the fact that we finally have gotten to this point and are going to hire Millennium, I think it's really, I actually think it's exciting. It's an exciting opportunity, so.
It's amazing. I mean, just you could get one grant that would be more than $36,000, so that would really cover the expense already. So, you know, there's the possibility to have several in the avenues that we have available to us will be really good.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Councilwoman and Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item is the operation and maintenance of the Chestnut Street dumpster pad. Back in 2015, we received a sole bid for $105 per month to run the dumpster pad at the Chestnut Street lot. Prior to this, the various businesses were trying to maintain it and switching off month per month whose turn it was to maintain it. It really wasn't working. So the bid was $1,260 per year. And basically, this is where nearby restaurants dispose of their trash. The contractor has successfully operated the dumpster pad for 2 years, and Mr. Rutherford inquired if they would like to continue, and they said they would, but they'd like to do so for a multi-year period. We're looking for a longer-term contract, possibly up to 5 years. We do have to just look at the statutes regarding that as to whether or not we can do it for that length of time. But the contractor is certainly interested if we can, and it would still be at the $1,260 a year that they'd be paying us. So we'll just double check that, and as long as that's doable, then we'll move forward with this contract.
Okay. Questions?
The next one is the printing of the village calendar. For 2018, we went out for quotes. We got 3 different quotes, and the lowest quote was from Ridgewood Press at $10,988. Last year's price was $10,477. It's 10,500 copies, and it's for the printing, layout, printing, and distribution of the calendar, and those prices do not include postage. That's separate.
Okay. So, Ridgewood Press it is, right?
The next one is under policy. This is the proposed legislative changes to Open Public Meetings Act and the Open Public Records Act. Attached in your backup is a resolution from the Borough of Harrington Park and 2 resolutions from the Bergen County League of Municipalities opposing the legislative amendments to Oprah and OPMA bills. Also, there's a summary from the New Jersey State League of Municipalities. They have several concerns with the new amendments as well. Just as a couple of highlights, one is subcommittees would be prepared to prepare quarterly reports, and they'd have to give public notice. They'd have to be open to the public. Basically, what the league is saying is that subcommittees make recommendations to the governing body, that the council is the one who ultimately makes a decision. They do not expend public funds or make binding decisions, so therefore they don't think they should be covered under OPMA. The other one is expanding the definition of government records, which says that it's required by law to be made, maintained, or kept on file. So currently, if an OPRA request comes in and we do not have a document and we cannot, no document exists, then that OPRA request is closed because there were no records pertinent to the request. However, by expanding this definition to anything kept on file, for example, a records custodian could be in violation of OPRA if the record was required to be made, such as a municipal budget from, let's say, 2000, but they are unable to locate it within the archives. So therefore, this could then be a violation of OPRA, even though it would limit the record custodian liability. It still technically would be in violation of OPRA. The other thing is the legislature, as always, has exempted themselves, and they are not subject to OPMA and OPRA, and so none of their records are open. So those are the concerns that these towns have. I've gotten other resolutions from other municipalities in Bergen County who had the same basic concerns. I think the resolution from Harrington Park, the other one that I do want to point out is that there are individuals who submit voluminous requests to some municipalities. We've had a few, but not many. I know that TNEC right now is certainly being inundated with requests on a daily and weekly basis. And there's no protection for that in the new amendments to the bills. So basically, I think that, if the council wishes to, we could say we're opposed to it. If you're not sure, we don't have to. This is up for you for discussion.
Yeah, so any comments or questions? I actually thought the last page, the concerns that the league had, the last 3 pages that were outlined, bullet pointed, were, spot on. So that was mostly helpful. Is that my phone?
Yeah, I mean, I would wonder if, because I guess people come in looking for extensive records for commercial projects and building. Is any of that addressed at all in the?
There is something that is addressed in it, and it does actually indicate that if it's indicated on the request that it's for commercial purposes, that there could be a special service charge given. So that was taken care of. That's something that's positive from the bills. But as I stated, there are still many concerns with them. They were actually released from committee without allowing any comment from any of the stakeholders. So it's a bit of a concern that it may move forward in this quick lame duck period before the governor leaves. You never know. So that's, I think, why most or many municipalities, as well as the league, are voicing their concerns.
Thank you.
I guess the only comment that I would have, as we've been, like on all our committees, and we've been trying to structure them so that there's some consistency amongst all the committees, and better record keeping of agendas and minutes, I would have no objection to that data being held within the village and disseminated to the public if they want it.
Yeah, but we could do that I mean, there's nothing
Yeah.
to stop us
There's
from
nothing to stop us,
self-imposing that and
Yeah.
making that
But we have to have some there has to be some way for the clerk's office to have access to that. So would we set up maybe a file folder for,
Although what we're
you know,
supposed to be.
repository for us to put it all, so that if somebody comes into Oprah, they don't say, oh, wait a minute, you know, who was the chairperson of this and where do we get it from? If we just start dropping them into a box of, like a file folder, they'll be there.
But ideally, what it should be happening, though, is that minutes should be submitted and published to the individual web pages.
Right.
So if, for instance, if the Arts Council had a meeting, and there's somebody taking minutes, and there's an agenda, there should be an agenda posted, it could be sent in, and we're still kind of working out some of the details. Some of the groups, some of the committees have been pretty regular in sending in their minutes and their agendas, and so those get published, and others have been less consistent. So ideally, you wouldn't even need an Oprah, because all the information would be at your fingertips, just going to the website. And I think that it's, you know, because there's a lot of information that's discussed and decided upon on boards and from boards and committees, and then they're making recommendations to us, and sometimes people don't understand that things that we do are the product of those meetings and discussions, and, you know, even though they're not a voting body, they are putting forward recommendations, and so it's important to see how that happens.
Yeah,
No,
I mean,
it's
and in a
important.
perfect world, they'll all be there, but for the one that's not posted, how do we cross our T and dot our I guess? So,
Yeah, I think
so maybe we could.
I think it's
you
a
know,
discipline. You
Yeah.
know, I think there's a certain discipline in it, and that's what folks have to do, is just be disciplined. And, you know, it maybe, you know, we'll start to go through it one more time. If everyone goes to their pages, I mean, for me, it's a little bit different, because the planning board, HPC, it's, you know, there's a secretary and things happen there.
Right.
4th of July committee technically isn't really the village council. It's independent. It's a, you know, it's a not-for-profit. So if everyone went to their individual boards and committees and maybe had made a regular checkup on it, or, you know, periodic checkup, and then we could make sure everything gets posted, especially Shade Tree. 'Cause, you know,
Shade Tree does.
because they're paperless.
So I just need to know, are you interested in doing a resolution similar to Harrington Park to oppose the amendments, or would you prefer not to do so?
No, I think we should. I mean, I think we should. I don't know about anyone else. I think when I read these concerns, especially the security concerns, I think they're very real, and that we should, you know, weigh in on it. If everybody
Yes.
else is good with that.
Is that okay? Yes? Okay.
Especially that the league is saying that they oppose it. If the league is representing us in that broader sense, then we should take their recommendation and be supportive. Okay. Excuse me.
Okay. The next item is operations, authorization of the 2018 NJDOT paving grant. We apply for this grant annually through our engineering division, and for 2018, we're going to apply for funds to resurface Hillcrest Road from North Monroe Street to Morningside Road. It also proposes sidewalks along Hillcrest Road from Morningside to Tabernacle Park in response to residents' requests we've received. Part of the grant application process is for the council to authorize the grant to be applied for, as well as giving the authorization to the manager and the clerk to submit the electronic grant application. So then we'll wait next spring, right? We usually hear in the spring as to whether or not we're awarded it. Okay, so if the council's in favor of it, we will do the resolution. Okay. The next one is best practices worksheet. You may remember this is an annual worksheet that comes from the state. They ask all sorts of questions, and then we answer them, and then in the end, depending on how many yes or no answers you have, it determines your amount of state aid. In doing the worksheet this year, out of 25 questions, 22 had a yes response, 22 yes or not applicable, and so that's an 88% score, so therefore we do not lose any state aid. So there were 3 answers which were no answers. One I think we can't change, the other, one of them is the introduction and adoption of the budget by the state stipulated date. It's supposed to be introduced in February and adopted in March. I don't know in all the years I've been in Ridgewood if we've ever hit either of those dates, I'll be honest. We're a big municipality. For us to go through the budget process takes time, obviously. Yeah, there are times they do extend it into March and then April. That's more doable possibly for us, so we'll have to wait and see with the new governor, whoever gets elected, what date they set for that introduction and adoption. It's certainly something we can strive to do, and we can see if we can do that going forward. The next one is the proposed traffic ordinance for South Hillside Place. We recently resurfaced South Hillside Place, and there's an existing mid-block crosswalk by Westside Presbyterian Church. We went to see if that actually is in our code. It's not, so in doing, putting that into the code, there are also several changes recommended. It's to keep vehicle parking on South Hillside Place away from the mid-block crosswalk to maximize visibility of children in the crosswalk during school hours. And the police department said it would be better to simplify it to remove the parking prohibit certain hours for a 30-foot section. So we would like to memorialize a crosswalk as well as instituting some parking prohibited at all times in that area.
Questions or anything?
And the last item under operations is establishing stop signs at Gilbert Street and Hope Street. We've had a few requests because of the fact that there's a yield sign currently. Mr. Rederstauser, the village engineer, looked at it again. He said that the sight lines are really not optimal at that intersection. Additionally, Gilbert Street is downhill eastbound. That can lead to speeds greater than 25 miles per hour, which is posted. And so therefore, his recommendation is to install stop signs to replace the yield sign. So it would be a two-way stop, but certainly it would help more so than the yield signs, I believe.
Suicidal, no.
Everyone's okay with that one?
Yep.
Okay. So the review of next week's agenda, hold on one sec. So we have a couple of proclamations. We have a National Diabetes Awareness Month and honoring Bob Paoli, who was here earlier this evening. We have Title 59 and award of contract for laboratory analysis services. This is under Ridgewood Water. Title 59 and award of contract for service and repair of electric source. Title 59 and award of contract emergency generator installations. Title 59 and award of contract service and repair of potable water pumping facilities. Authorizing a change order for professional services for the Glen Tank rehabilitation. Authorizing execution of lease for the co-location of wireless telecommunication antennas for the Glen Avenue tank. Title 59 approval and award of contract for furnishing and delivering of sodium hypochlorite solution. We have several introduction of ordinances, the supervisor salary ordinance, non-union and management salary ordinance, amending Chapter 265 for South Hillside Place, and amending Chapter 265 for establishing stop signs on Hope Street and Gilbert Street. We have ordinances for public hearing, including amending Chapter 265 for parking prohibition of U-turns, prohibition of stopping and standing for the municipal complex parking lot, and the time limit parking on North Maple Avenue. Amending Chapter 265 for 2-hour parking on Maltby Avenue. Amending Chapter 265 for establishing a bus stop on Goffle Road. Amending Chapter 265 for designating CBD employee parking spaces in the North Walnut Street parking lot. And amending Chapter 145 for fees for emergency medical services, third-party billing plan fees. We have several resolutions, awarding contract under state contract for recap tires, awarding contract under state contract for the Ford F-250 pickup with a snow plow for the engineering division, awarding second additional partial contract for tree planting, award third additional partial contract for road resurfacing and repair, awarding contract for odor control system, water pollution control facility, award professional service contract for grant writing and consulting services, authorizing the submission of the 2018 NJDOT paving grant application, approving the Eagle Scout project for building of raptor nests, award professional services contract, professional engineering services, preparation of plans for bids, improvements to the HVA system in Village Hall, awarding contract operation and maintenance of Chestnut Street dumpster pad, accepting the annual audit, approving the corrective action plan, awarding a contract for the printing distributing of the 2018 village calendar, Hudson Street area in need of redevelopment. We'll see whether or not we do that one, opposing the amendments to Oprah and OPMA, and that's all I have. Would you like any of those off the consent agenda? Okay.
Good.
So now I have the manager's report. In response to the events in Las Vegas, Nevada this week, the community of Ridgewood is holding a vigil at Memorial Park at Venice Square tomorrow evening, Thursday, October 5th at 7 p.m., led by the religious leaders of Ridgewood. It will allow the community to come together and respond to the sad and disturbing acts of violence in Las Vegas. Vigils are seen as a nonviolent way to raise awareness of a cause and to motivate change, as well as uniting and supporting one another. Central Valet Service, I'm sure Councilman Hache will be commenting on this. I just do want to indicate that it is going to begin this Friday, October 6th, and run through December 30th, which is the final Saturday. Ridgewood Sidewalk Sale Days will take place October 12th, 13th, and 14th. There will be great bargains available in this blowout sales days featuring summer ending, fall trendings, and holiday coming inside and outside the stores. Haunted Harvest plans are underway for the Chamber of Commerce's Halloween event, scheduled for Saturday, October 28th. Dress in your favorite costume and march in the Halloween parade and contest at Memorial Park at Venice Square. The estate card, Ridgewood officials are proud to introduce the Ridgewood Estate Card, a new property tax savings program now available to Ridgewood property owners. The program offers a debit-like card that offers a reward on purchases. It's automatically applied to reduce Ridgewood property taxes billed to the cardholder. An even greater level of reward is offered at participating local and online merchants. Tax rewards are applied to the third quarter tax bill annually. The leaf schedule has been mailed to every household. Again, I'll just say one more time, it is as it was last year, where the dates that are on the card are the dates you put out your leaves. After you've put out your leaves, then the crews come through. Once the crew is done with your street, if you put out leaves again, you're subject to getting a summons. So once the dates pass for you to put out your leaves, you can't put them out again until the following time that it says you can put them out. We do have contractor in one section, again, as we have in years past, and every section will receive 3 pickups. Final voter registration night for the general election is October 17th from 4:30 to 9 p.m. in the library lobby. Walktoberfest, during the month of October, you could sign up for walks and tours of various locations in the village, including village buildings, schools, nonprofit food walks for like dessert and pizza, jewelry walks, shopping, wildscape walks, houses of worship. You can sign up for tours at ridgewoodwalks.com. There are probably like 40 different tours you can take. They all sound very interesting. I want to remind everyone that the farmers market located in the New Jersey Transit train station lot will continue to be open every Sunday from 9 to 3 through November 19th. Enjoy fresh New Jersey produce, fresh baked goods, and fresh mozzarella cheese. I do want to mention one other item which did not get onto the agenda, but I'm hopeful that the council will consider it. The stairs to from Corsa Terrace to the Peace Library and the stairs at the end of the tunnel for the train station are both in disrepair, and they do need to be fixed. We do have this money in our capital budget. For the Corsa Terrace stairs, the quote is $27,200, and the stairs at the end of the tunnel is $11,800. So if the council is willing to, we will put this on for next week's agenda with the hope that this can be done before the end of the year, before it gets too cold to pour the concrete and do what has to be done. The lowest, or the quotes offered at these prices were by Conquest. They recently, within the past couple of years, did Glenwood Road going down to the train station from Upper Ridgewood down to the Hohokus train station. And if you ever take a look at those steps, they're really very durable, and I think they're going to last a long time. So we'd like to go with this contractor. We have good experience with them. And so as long as and we did get 3 quotes, by the way, for each of these. So as long as you're amenable to it, we will put it on for next week's public meeting.
Did we have the backup information on that? So
What I'll do is I can
an
get that
email?
to you over the weekend.
Right.
And, make it available to you so you can look at it. But, if you have any concerns or questions, you can let me know. So unless I hear from you, hopefully we can put it on, because I'm just concerned if we wait till November, we won't be able to get it done, unfortunately.
No, I think we should do that. I mean, the stairs over there are beautiful, and these are definitely in disrepair. I was just over there the other day, and they're really in rough shape. So I
Right.
think it's important just for safety. And
Okay.
so I'm good with it.
Again, I'll send you all the backup over the weekend, and then if you do have any concerns or questions, please contact me. The last item I want to mention is that this coming Monday, October 9th, is Columbus Day. All village offices will be closed. Village garbage and recycling pickup will not take place that day, and the recycling center will be closed.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Just real briefly, the Shedler Ad Hoc Committee met, and we're moving forward with discussion of plans to develop the property. I think a really good suggestion came from Tim Cronin, I believe, the Director of Parks and Recreation. So what we're going to do is have engineering produce a large map printout of the property, and then we'll have scaled size fields. So what a 60 by 80 yard overlay field would look like would fit, and it would be to scale, and then a smaller field, and then an even smaller field, a pickleball court, bathrooms, different things like that. You could add it, you could move it around, you could take it off. So instead of having 3 static options printed out from the CAD system, it could be unlimited. So we'll just have a map of the area, and we can move different things around as there'll be pieces of paper, so we could really visualize what we're talking about and hopefully bring something to the council relatively soon, once the committee settles on a design and everybody's basically in agreement. And that's my report.
Just a quick question. Wouldn't we see a couple of designs, not just one, right? We wouldn't
Well,
just say...
this is for the committee's purpose, so it makes more sense because everybody's talking about this size field or that size field, or how big is a bathroom and how does it fit in relation to this, and what if you tilt the field this way? So this way we would have, like, say this is a field.
I know, I got that, like color forms, you could kind of take it on and off and put it back, and...
cut out pieces of
color
paper,
forms,
they
that
could
is
just
what-
move around, so you'd see how things fit on the property and how they would work with each other, and how, you just get a better idea to visualize it.
Right, but then when it comes to council, would we have like several different designs that we would be looking at? You wouldn't, I mean, because we would then choose which design we would prefer, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, and I don't mean to jump in on your parade.
Hot report.
But one of the things that, what we kind of made very clear, I think, from the beginning, and the reasons why we wanted the ad hoc. First of all, the ad hoc gave us the flexibility of being able to meet outside of regular intervals of monthly meetings that you have, informal meetings. But we also wanted to be very specific about what's coming up with options. We don't know if it's going to be 1, 2, 3, or 4, but we want to certainly have enough options that are backed by feasibility kind of analysis of what we can put on there, but most importantly, to be accompanied by what would be the corresponding costs to develop that particular plan.
Got it.
And we want to do that so that it's ready to go before the end of the year, so that when we enter into budget planning season, we have a much clearer picture of what it is what impact it could have on the budget.
Makes sense.
And for the committee's purposes, again, it's just easier to work with, and instead of having 3 or 4 static printouts from engineering, we just have all these pieces we can move around. We could basically have unlimited versions of it until we could settle on a few that we'll present.
Unlimited.
So it'll be a robust
Unlimited would be
discussion, I'm
good.
sure.
Okay, all right, thank you. Councilwoman Walsh.
Okay, thank you. Citizen safety, oops, my notes just went, oh no. Hold on, I'll get them. No, I think it just was, it was waiting so long. So at our last citizen safety meeting, which was actually our September meeting, there was a conversation regarding the TAP grant and some of the projects that were involved with the TAP grant. So a couple of different things were presented at the meeting that after the meeting I had questioned because they were things that I was not aware of. I had reached out to the mayor because it had been relayed to me that it was discussed at the former council and that some of the things were approved. And then I actually ran into Chris Rudishauser and we had a discussion about it. But the grant has some suggestions. They weren't approved plans. They were suggestions that would still need to be presented to this council and approved by this council. So although they were portrayed as kind of a done deal, they weren't really. It was just a couple of suggestions. Those suggestions were sidewalks along West Glen Avenue and Bogart Avenue, Hillcrest Road, Oak Street, Franklin Avenue, traffic calming in line with county paving, ADA ramps, and construction of ADA along Franklin Avenue, and then some other just traffic calming in a couple of different areas. We also discussed separately the Ridge School safety initiatives and the safety initiatives for drop-off and pickup and parking. So they've done a map up there for all of the parents so that they can review and make sure that they're doing the correct processes when they're parking and you know, because some new families that aren't aware of the process. So we also discussed the crosswalk, which everybody probably forgot about, at Van Emberg. We have to go through a process because it is a county road with doing the correct ADA you know, markings there. We had Jeannie Johnson present to us about Walktoberfest, fostering a pedestrian-friendly community, and all of the initiatives that are going on to make us more of a walk-friendly community. We also discussed the incident at Laurel Road in Kenilworth, which was and you know, it was not, I guess the accident that happened there over the summer was kind of a fluke. It wasn't based on a regular traffic pattern. It was a fluke accident. But it is still part of the discussion because it is close to the school in terms of walking and signage and whatnot. And that was it for citizen safety. Yeah, that's glitching out on me.
Computer has stopped. It has stopped working, actually. It's crashing.
We had our Ridgewood Arts Council meeting last night. Again, we talked about Walktoberfest and how we can help out with Walktoberfest. There obviously are lots of different walks going on. I understand that Councilman Hache is doing a historical tour, and that the Deputy Mayor is doing a historical / park tour.
Yeah, Stable, Graydon, that
right?
area.
Councilman Voigt is doing a Village Hall tour. I don't think they mentioned what the mayor is doing.
So actually...
Oh, well, you can tell about that in yours, I guess.
Okay, all right, fine, good.
Your report is. And you know, it was just talking about, you know, building awareness of how great it is to walk around our village and see the things that are already in our village. We are deciding on our next artist series. We have somebody, but we're just confirming that they don't have any travel. They may have some international travel, so I'll maybe in my next report give their name and information. And you know, we're always updating our augmented reality and working on art. That's all I have.
Great, thank you. Councilman Hache?
Thank you. Just before I get into the boring stuff, we have the League of Women Voters has an event on October 19th at 7 p.m. at the Ridgewood Public Library, is the Screenagers viewing, and it's a 2016 film. It's about an hour long, that sheds light on the impact of screen time. For those of you who've noticed that teenagers tend to have a lot of screen time on their phone and tablets. But obviously, this film, takes a look at what the effects are on the teens developing attention span, self-esteem, and other things. I think is very valuable for all of us who've been in the presence or have, in our families, kids who spend an inordinate amount of time on their phone. So that's a good event to tune in. That's Thursday, October 19th at 7 p.m. And I'll, just following on Heather's recommendation to talk about Central Valley, I will bore you to tears for just a few minutes, just to read. This is a letter that we sent out to all the business owners, but really is just an explanation of sort of the logistics and a very quick overview of how this Central Valley will work. So basically, obviously, starting on October 6th, we'll be launching Central Valley. It's a 3-month pilot program. We're going to take in a lot of the feedback of what works well with the program, what doesn't. And at the end of those 3 months, make a determination whether or not we extend this to be permanent. And obviously, there are other considerations as well. Operating Friday and Saturday nights from 6 p.m. until 1 a.m. And the goal of the program really is to alleviate the traffic congestion caused by patrons searching for parking, and also to enhance the dining/shopping experience for those patrons, and to bring additional foot traffic into our central business district. We have a beautiful central business district, and it seems to just sort of go dark after 6 p.m. And obviously, I think it's because a lot of our retailers close, by 6. But the way that it works is very simple. The customers will pick up and drop off their vehicles at one of 2 locations, one being next to Van Ness Park, along the median by the bus station there. And then there's one at the small train station parking lot at the corner of Broad Street and East Ridgewood Avenue, where Latour is located. So the overflow parking for the Central Valley will be North Walnut Street parking lot in the CBD employee parking section directly across from TD Bank. The fee charged to the patron for the service will be $5 per vehicle. The parking areas for the Central Valley, namely the northwest side of Van Ness Square and the parking lot at the top of East Ridgewood Avenue where Latour is located, and the section of the North Walnut Street parking lot across from TD Bank will be barricaded by 4 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. We're going to work with our, whether it's employees or patrons parked in these lots. The idea is not to be punitive. I think we did a great job, and we were transitioning some of the folks out of the newly created shoppers and diner spots on Hudson Street. I think we gave folks plenty of time and warnings to understand what the new regulations were. No different than what we do today with the on-street, the meter parking spots in front of the restaurants that have the private valet parking. CBD employees usually park in the CBD spaces in the northwestern lot, can also park in cottage spaces after 4 p.m. Merchants can opt in. This is not mandatory. This obviously, you have a choice in order to pay the $5 parking fee for their patrons. For the convenience of patrons, we'll be publishing a list of those merchants who will validate both online and at each Central Valley location. We'll have a list of what the locations are. So if you're going into a particular establishment, it's pretty clear to you whether or not you'll be assuming the cost of the parking or if somebody else is picking it up for you. And some of the questions that I've had, about this, yes, some of the lots and spaces that can be had for free after 6 p.m. will be used, but those same lots and spaces translate easily into 2 to 3 times the existing amount of spaces because of stacking. You can park there, but you can't stack the cars. The valet locations are within 1 or 2 blocks from most of the restaurants in the CBD, so it's very convenient. And again, if you're coming in from out of town, we're going to have nice big bright signs to kind of let you know where valet is. And this is really, I think, going to also be very valuable during the holiday shopping season, because things are going to, stores can be open a little bit later. Restaurants don't open any later; they're still open at the same time. And again, back to the mayor's point, really at the end of the day, it would be great if this can, because we're promoting the foot traffic in the downtown, incentivize some of the retailers to be open later. You know, this is really another one of the things that we've been, you know, trying to implement to really help the vibrancy and vitality of our central business district. And I think it's clear by now that this council is dedicated to that extent. This is, you know, again, we did the reallocation of parking in the beginning of the year. I think it worked out well, particularly for those stores that are on the South Broad Street side, by freeing up those spaces for the patrons and diners. Designation of employee parking at a discounted rate, I think that we're sacrificing a significant amount of revenue and spaces in order to accommodate the employees and get them off the street to open up more spaces for our customers. And also, you know, we're in the process of, we've ordered just recently the banners for the downtown, nicely branded for Ridgewood downtown. Also the lights that are coming in to replace the 1961 kissing balls that we have all over the downtown. And also the estate card. You know, again, these are things that you know, in the aggregate are going to do a lot to help our business owners. The CBD Advisory Committee next meeting will be Thursday, October 12th, here in the Garden Room, 8:30 a.m. These are open to the public. I think we do a pretty good job of posting our agendas and minutes. But you know, the public is welcome to stop by. We're going to be focusing primarily around the CBD website, which we're hoping to finalize very soon. And I'm going to have a special guest come in. It's a company that's doing a lot of work in helping get the word out. They're working a lot with the Gold Coast communities, Weehawken and you know, Gutenberg, West New York, and they do a lot in terms of putting a lot of resources at the palm of your hand on your phone, app-based system that can give you a rundown of all the sales and discounts that the local merchants in your community are offering, can tell you where's the best place to you know, to go dine and eat, and most importantly, they put together a calendar of events. So you know, we talk a lot about what are the things that we want to offer for the community. Obviously, we have a pretty broad range of interests, from families with small children, you know, to business owners, to shoppers, diners, and also to, you know, we talk a lot about aging in place. So you'll be able to have at the palm of your hand at any given time a list of all the things that you can do in your community in that day. So you know, from 7 in the morning till whenever. So we're going to see what that looks like, and obviously if we think that it makes sense and the platform is an adequate one, then we would bring it to the council for consideration. And that's all I have.
You want to talk about stickball?
And stickball tournament this Saturday. Registration starts at 9:30 a.m. It's going to be behind the Knights of Columbus. This is an annual event. The focus this year is really to support the homeless retreat ministry for men and women who are battling alcoholism and drug abuse. It'll start at 10 a.m. There'll be teams of 4. It's $25 per person. We'll be handing out some pretty cool T-shirts that should be coming in tomorrow. But it's a great day to have fun. It's stickball. I know it's frustrating for some to hit a ball with a bat the thickness of a broomstick. But it's a great cause, and it's a fun event. There's going to be some food, non-alcoholic drinks, of course, but it'll be a great time. And exactly.
Great. Thank you. All right. The Mayor's Wellness Campaign in Good Life Ridgewood was a huge success. This past Sunday, the 3rd Annual Wellness Festival and Celebration kicked off at Memorial Park at Van Ness Square to perfect, absolutely perfect, beautiful weather. Everyone had a great time. They enjoyed yoga in the park, the Jig Factory, Irish step dancers, Taekwondo, all in, Art of Motion, and other performances. Everyone had the opportunity to watch. Many vendors offering information about wellness as it relates to yoga, orthopedics, healthcare, personal grooming, massage therapy, holistic nutrition, regenerative healing, if I said that right, core fire, Pilates, skincare, psychology, and more. Special thanks to the village staff, members of the village staff that manned their tents. and worked all day, and for their participation. Shout out to Orchard School for their Choose to Be Nice campaign. I met with them back in a couple of months ago, and it was really this wonderful program, Choose to Be Nice, and it's totally integrated with the school curriculum, and most of the schools seem to be picking it up, and we had this idea to get a table at Good Life Ridgewood and paint kindness rocks. And so I did paint two, and they're nice. Anyway, so thanks to everyone who worked on the Mayor's Wellness Campaign and Good Life Ridgewood. Afterwards, Councilman Hache and I joined Sherry Rue at the Bamboo House to celebrate 30 years in business right here in Ridgewood. It was really absolutely fabulous. Not only did we have the opportunity to feast on the regular fare, we had some specialties that we had never off the menu. So it was really a lot of fun, and we absolutely enjoyed their company, and wish Bamboo House continued success another 30 years times 1,000. It was just absolutely a lot of fun. Special Project Task Force met Monday evening. The group is continuing their in-depth analysis of the village's energy programs. They're really deep diving into this, and it's a lot of work, but they're moving ahead with that. Another assignment in the hopper, because the way this is structured, they have a certain number of people working on that, and then there's a little bit of free agents there. So one of the ideas was to have them take all the multitude of central business traffic studies that we've had over the course of X number of years and do a comparative analysis to determine whether or not they're all at least appropriate and the level of accuracy is there. So I was putting together all of my traffic reports for the past 10 years. It's a lot of paperwork, but we're going to give that to them. If that's okay with everyone, because I think we said that this would be something we would all agree upon, so if that's good with everyone, we'll have them move forward. And our traffic consultant, John Jar, has been kind enough to offer, if they come in and meet on a Tuesday before a planning board meeting or Tuesday before a Board of Adjustment meeting, he'll sit with them for an hour, because these types of traffic reports are sometimes difficult to read. You know, some of us have been looking at them for years, and when you just take a look at it and it's new to you, it's kind of mind-boggling to understand, so it's crazy. So they're going to do that. Let's see, CBS News interviewed the Deputy Mayor and myself about the Central Valet, scheduled to kick off this Friday. We met the CBS reporter Meg Baker at the Hole. We discussed the details of the 3-month pilot program and the efforts of this village council to provide CBD employee parking at Cottage Place and Walnut. You can see the full report at CBS Local. You know, and we had this kind of conversation about how much you would actually increase by stacking the parking spaces. And we're optimistic, but we understand that this is a 3-month pilot, and that then we'll kind of put our heads together and do an evaluation and figure out how to move forward. So thank you to Meg for taking, as always, Meg Baker takes a great interest in the village and does some great reporting. Blue Star Family Dinner is scheduled for this Friday evening at Our Lady of Mount Carmel. Last year, Councilman Walsh and I served families of our military men and women. Look forward to doing so again. It is Friday night, the same kickoff of valet, so if I don't walk there, I might just valet my car. Please mark your calendars for Friday, October 13th, Saturday, October 14th, Sunday, October 15th for Access Ridgewood Weekend. This is a weekend-long celebration embracing abilities, disabilities, special gifts, and special needs. The weekend will include staying healthy events, family fun with Marsha Matthews and Jester Jim, family concert, live music and dance, fashion show, a day in the life of a therapy dog, and the Ridgewood Soccer Association and Ridgewood High School girls soccer team will take on our own Ridgewood police officers and Ridgewood firefighters, and there will be police cars and fire equipment available. I guess that's kind of like touch-a-truck thing, so everyone can engage, and it'll be a lot of fun. The weekend will wrap up with the annual interfaith service Sunday evening, 7 p.m., and I believe that that's at Friends down on Broad Street. And next week, Maureen Barrett, who is the owner of Wolfgang Bakery and Grooming, will be here October 11th for a formal welcome by the council, so tune in to that. So last thing, and I kind of have been debating about how to approach this, and I'm never quite certain how to handle certain situations, but it was called to my attention a letter to the editor last week in North Jersey Media. And the letter was written by a council colleague with some statements in it, and I just want to kind of correct these statements, and it gets uncomfortable for me because I just want to make sure the record is set straight and that the information going out to the public is 100% accurate. In the letter states that in 2015, a non-binding referendum for a garage on Hudson Street was voted 2-1 in favor of building the garage, and so why can't the Village Council move forward on this? On June 21st, 2016, there was a binding referendum that was just the opposite, 2-1, and it was a defeat for the bond ordinance. In early February, a subcommittee, this is what was written in the letter, a subcommittee was formed to figure out how best to move forward with building the garage. The mayor and one other council member volunteered quickly for the committee, preventing other council members from serving. To my knowledge, and I went through the minutes and watched the video, there is no committee. There was never any committee formed. Just didn't happen. So there is no garage committee. The mayor should be taken off the garage committee, so that doesn't exist. A bond ordinance, well, let me see. Oh, I'm sorry. The mayor needs to be taken off the garage subcommittee and replaced by a council member who wants to build a garage. Why she is on it is a mystery to me. She's never come out publicly in support of the Hudson Street garage. Yet, a bond ordinance for $11.5 million was introduced on March 2nd, 2016, unanimously adopted on March 23rd, including my affirmative vote. The bond ordinance became effective April 16th, 2016. I have the signed copy attested to by Heather Maylander, and that public meeting vote, I added my yes vote with the caveat that the garage was still too big and needed further attention to the structure itself to reduce the size and scope of it. And finally, that, well, the information coming out of a subcommittee has been non-existent. There is no subcommittee. And while all of these statements are being made that I did not support the garage, while I did vote for it, what's omitted from the letter is that not only did the council person who wrote the letter sign 2 petitions to stop the garage, but in fact on one of those, every member of his household signed it, and he was also the circulator who was signed on it, the notarized copy. I really feel bad to be in this position. I think that if I don't respond to it, that it just hangs out there and has some basis in reality. There is no reality to it, and so hopefully we can clear that up and continue forward with proper and accurate information going out to the public. Unfortunately, I guess North Jersey media didn't think to fact check. And with that, I guess we move back to public comments.
Tony Damiano, 274 South Broad Street. To finish up, the estate card. Unfortunately, the Ridgewood Guild Board of Directors would not endorse the card. I put it on 2 agendas. There were 4 reasons why. The question was, is it a scam? Okay, so I think we got past that. Conflict of interest with the Guild card, which offers discounts, and the Chamber of Commerce's rewards card. Plus, there are other businesses that do additional discounts. So obviously, the answer to that question is really the customer has to choose whether they use their estate card or take advantage of some of the organization's discount cards. The third reason was there are online businesses that are a part of this estate card. It is not exclusive to Ridgewood businesses, which was kind of disturbing. Big box stores like Macy's, Kohl's, Walmart can use the estate card. It's a lower percentage, but, you know, again, we initially thought it was for the small business owner, so it's really not. Online businesses can use it. Again, the return is smaller. And the fourth reason is actually the question that I had asked months ago at the initial meeting that I had at the Chamber's office. In order for a resident to save $1,000 annually on their property taxes, how much would they actually have to spend on a monthly basis? The answer the gentleman gave back to me was they need to spend $1,600 per month in order to have a $1,000 tax reduction, and $1,600 per month obviously translates to over $16,000 per year. So I went online and I saw that only about 19 businesses had joined. That said, I have endorsed the card, so Mango Jam will be a part of it because I would like to test the waters. The one thing, again, that I thought was done incorrectly was the business community wasn't aware of this in general. Possibly a forum could have been held because there are lots of questions. This is not a quick decision to make. And I think it hurt more that the gentleman went door to door soliciting, because I got calls from several businesses saying, well, what is this about? I didn't have time to hear his whole spiel. I have questions. I'm not sure. So I think, we're all busy in our businesses helping customers, and for this guy to go around soliciting, I think it hurt more than helped. That said, like I said, I will test the waters, so I think it's the perfect time of year to do this. Again, the customer will have to choose whether they want the guild discount at 10%. I also give 20% to realtors for their closing gifts, or they want to take part in the program. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you mind, I just wanted to ask you a question.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I sat in for you, sorry, Tony, I sat in for you on a chamber meeting a couple of weeks ago, and I went through all of this with some pretty detailed.
Yeah.
And so I'm just kind of curious, what was your level of discussion at the chamber? Because I don't know how I'm not quite certain.
Yeah. I mean, we've been discussing not only the estate guard, we've been discussing Central Valet at the chamber. I mean, I'm the chamber liaison. It seems like we have pretty much the same conversation every time because there's always an update. This is what we're doing.
Right.
We talked about the following things. This is where we are now with the process. Estate guard was discussed. We've been discussing Central Valet, I think, since early on this year. There were a lot of questions around the estate guard about the numbers of it. The example that Mr. Damiano presented as in order to save $1,000 in property taxes, you have to spend $1,600 a month. I just did a quick math. That's assuming a 5% tax reward.
Right.
5% right now is the lowest reward that's offered by those 19 or so merchants that are participating. The range is 5 to 30. 30 is the outlier. Most of them are in the range of 10. So then that would bring the amount you have to spend per month to about $800, in order to have a $1,000 tax saving at the end of the year.
Right, but again, and certainly and my question is that the information was disseminated to the Chamber of Commerce, and
Absolutely.
And then there are chamber members and on the CBD advisory committee as well. So presumably then that information gets filtered out into the business community, because I thought that would be the type of relationship that we would have. So I just wanted to make sure. Okay. Other comments?
Good evening, Ann Loving, 342 South Irving Street. I actually had 4 things I wanted to comment about. The first was regarding the recommendations from the League of Municipalities. Is the public going to get to see those recommendations? Because, the mayor referenced them, but we can't see them, and I would like to see. I know the village clerk referenced TNEC a couple of times, and I'm pretty sure from what I've read that every court has ruled in favor of the individual in TNEC to the point that his legal fees are being reimbursed by the municipality. So I would be interested to see the concerns that the League of Municipalities has raised. I see some nodding of heads, so maybe
We
that
can
means...
put it on the website.
Pardon me?
We can put it onto the website.
Thank you very much.
League website as well.
Pardon?
It's on the league website as well.
On the League's website, okay, thank you. The second thing, regarding the field at Shedler, I attend pretty much every single one of these meetings, and it seemed that just about a week ago was when discussion of a field at Shedler seemed to reappear. I thought it was going to be a passive park with no field, and not asking for a reply there, but it's like really surprising to me that all of a sudden there's a field there again. I thought it was going to be a passive park. The third thing is, and I kind of hesitate to say this because of that good-looking man in the back of the room, but I really hope the Central Valet works. Totally supportive of anything that that could possibly stop us from having a garage. I do not support the garage in any way, shape, or form, but I will say that I don't like the idea that prime parking in the middle of the business district is being taken for the Central Valet. There's a lot of outlying lots that are pretty close by that I think could be used. There's a couple of church lots and so on. I know Graydon is a little far away, but maybe there could be a system where you could text that you're getting ready to leave, and, you know, like in 10 minutes your car could be there for you. I really, really hope the Central Valet works. I'm a big supporter of anything that will stop the garage from being built. I was very interested to hear Mr. Rogers say that you know, you don't even have to build a garage. If it's now part of the redevelopment, you can do anything you want. Do something else besides build a garage there. The fourth thing I wanted to mention was regarding shopping in the CBD on Friday and Saturday nights. In my experience, almost none of the stores are open on Friday and Saturday nights. Christmas season is coming. If I'm going to go shopping on Friday and Saturday nights, I'm going to the mall or I'm going online. If the stores would stay open on Friday and Saturday nights, like the mayor has pointed out and Councilman Hache and others have pointed out, you could go to dinner and go shopping. The stores are all closed except for some of the activity stores, like Creatively Yours is open. But other than that, you know, the Central Valet is not going to help those businesses because they don't stay open. I don't know why. But anyway, those are my 4 comments for the evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Boyd Loving, 342 South Irving Street. Just to set the record straight, I hope it works too. My concern is that I don't want the taxpayers to wind up paying for it. That's my concern. The devil's in the details. Councilman Hache mentioned, after I got up already, something about an app and that there would be no cash that would be exchanged. I don't understand how that's going to work. Maybe you can explain it when I sit down. But if you go to some place that is not going to validate your ticket, how do you pay? And if you don't have a smartphone, you can't pay by an app. So some cash is going to have to fly here somewhere. And my concern is that that cash is accounted for. Again, we're on the hook for $36,000. We should not have to pay for this as taxpayers. There's no benefit to the overall taxpayer population. It's been suggested by somebody who sits on the dais that if sales are good, that means property taxes are going to go down. That's absolute nonsense. We know that, and I don't know why that person tried to sell that in their comments, but let's get beyond that, okay? So we need to know the details. There's going to be cash floating. When somebody walks up to hand in their car, what is going to be the process that they pay the bill? What is going to be the process that the taxpayers get their money back? Again, electronics fine if you have a smartphone and if you're going to some place that validates your ticket, but if you're not, what's going to happen? 2 other things I'd like to comment on, and they're follow-ups to things that have been discussed here within the past few months. Sergeant J. Chuck and one of the patrol officers in here talking about the bike path. Raymond Torino was in here talking about the bike path in Garber Square and made recommendations to reduce the length of the bike path. I believe that was about 3 to 4 months ago. I drove through there this morning. Nothing has been done. The bike path remains at the same length it was when it was constructed. What is the reason that that hasn't happened? The police department made recommendations. The recommendations were listened to by the council. I don't know if there was ever a resolution passed on it, but I did see a lot of nodding heads. So I would have expected that that would have been done by now, but it remains in the same condition that it was when it was first put in. The other follow-up I have is that several months ago, I know I stood up at this microphone, and I believe the mayor mentioned it too, is that the lighting on the path that leads from the Jim Tanhove Plaza up to Maple Avenue is not adequate at night. I see that some trees have been cut back a little, which has made it a little bit lighter, but as you walk closer to Maple Avenue, it is pretty dark up there. No additional lighting has been added, and I believe that the manager has been instructed to get a remedy to that. So I just wanted to follow up on that as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Boyd. Anyone else? Okay, with that?
Actually, can I just to answer some of the questions? So the cash exchange that won't take place is between the sponsoring merchant and the patron who's going to go back to the valet station. So that will be an electronic one. The way that the valet stations will operate is you're going to have two sets of tickets, almost like if you're playing a raffle, you're going to have one that you keep and one that you give out. At the beginning of the night, the valet company will have an inventory of what that number of tickets is. As if they give out 1,000 tickets and 500 tickets come back, that means that 500 cars were parked. So there better be 500 times $5 worth of revenue to offset that. So yeah, there would be cash, but not from the businesses to the patrons. And then the other comment was about the Shedler property. You know, one of the things that I'm very proud of the process that and how we've kind of undertaken this task, and it's not an easy task. I mean, it's an odd sort of property, odd location. But one of the things that we set out, in the deputy mayor and I, in the first meeting that we went into, was we wanted to make sure that we were very transparent, that we were open, and that the process itself was going to be very fair and balanced. And it was to really take into account all of the needs of all the different stakeholders within the community. Obviously, there are a lot of things that side of 17 is missing. You know, primarily a park, you know, walking trails, but they're also missing athletic fields. And the discussion that we've had so far has been really to figure out, because just putting an athletic field doesn't really solve an issue, because you can create additional problems with depending on what you put on there. So depending on the type of field, that could bring in additional, you know, vehicular traffic, that can bring in some other safety concerns. So we're really carefully going through all those different options. You know, at the end of the day, you know, it's going to be, we don't have sort of a set plan of what's going to go on there. There's no sort of, you know, no plan that we're trying to back into. You know, it's going to be an open discussion. We're going to consider all of the different options. And the discussion about what type of field could potentially go on there was really centered around going out to speaking all the different sports groups. You know, the risk here is, well, the challenge is that each particular sports group has a very specific need. The risk is that we come up with a need that's so specific for one particular group. So we're trying to be very balanced and come up with something that can help alleviate some of the needs for the fields. We just simply don't have enough fields in town. You know, obviously some of the plans that have been considered in the past didn't go over too well. You know, there's a nice sort of happy medium somewhere, but we're doing everything possible to really be transparent and to be considerate about what needs to go on there. And hopefully we can come up with, you know, 1, 2, or 3 recommendations for the council to look into. Remember that this is not a policy setting committee. This is a committee that's tasked with coming up with solutions and options for the council to consider ultimately. So.
Okay, we'll take a resolution to go into closed session.
Resolution 17293, be it resolved by the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood that the Village Council meet in closed session on October 4th, 2017 at 7:30 p.m. or soon thereafter as the matter on the agenda can be reached, that said closed session be held in the caucus room on the 4th floor of Ridgewood Village Hall, 131 North Maple Avenue, Ridgewood, New Jersey. And be it further resolved that the matters to be discussed in closed session are limited to legal matters to include Valley Hospital, COA, Barrington Road, authorization to settle a damaged water line claim, contract negotiations to include potential purchase of property, personnel will include boards and committees, management, and non-union salaries. These matters are allowable under NJSA 10:4-12 et sec. Be it further resolved that the minutes of this meeting shall be made available to the general public when such matters have been deemed completed by resolution of the village council. Have a motion?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you.